Today is the day the music died. February 3rd, 1959, American rock and roll suffered a devastating loss. Three rising stars, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, were killed when their chartered plane crashed in Iowa shortly after takeoff. They were headed to Minnesota for a concert that would never happen. For the nation, a tragedy that shook the music world to its core. These young men represented the future of rock and roll. Their death seemed to mark the end of an era before it had even fully begun. But the tragedy found a voice through a Maine resident. 13 years later, Don McLean immortalized that February night in American Pie, a song that became a #1 hit in 1972. McLean called it the day the music died, a phrase that would echo through generations. For Maine, Don McLean transformed a national tragedy into art. His song became an American anthem, keeping the memory of Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper alive forever. Until tomorrow, I'm Brian Sullivan.